Hi everybody, just wanted to do another Steam Deck video, this time really about, so what games are compatible with the Steam Deck? Which games play on the Steam Deck, and how can you find out? Because if you're thinking about buying a Steam Deck, you'll probably have a list of games you think, oh, I fancy playing this, maybe they're old favourites or things you want to explore. So I'm going to talk about some options in this particular video, because you have to remember that the Steam Deck runs on the Linux operating system, which means that it's not a Windows PC. It's a Linux PC that's very, very good at playing many, many Windows games, but not everything's compatible. And there's kind of 4 levels of compatibility that Steam give to games in its library. So you have verified games where they say, yeah, everything works great. Playable games where everything works okay, but some things might need tweaking or might be a little bit more difficult. Stuff that doesn't work, and stuff they haven't checked yet. But none of these things mean that the game might be very playable. And what I mean by that is that sometimes you have to think about the screen size of the Steam Deck as well, and the controls. And so some games, even though they're verified, just might not suit the really small screen of the Steam Deck, the 7-inch or the 7.4-inch on the OLED models screen. So bear that in mind. Playable games, lots and lots of games are playable, and often the most common thing with this is that the writing is too small. Because you can imagine PC games, they're designed to be played on big monitors with powerful computers, and so the UIs don't always scale very well, so that can happen. When you get the unsupported ones that say this game is currently not functional on Steam Deck, actually many games that are unsupported actually do work as well to make things confusing, and many of the unknown ones do as well. So these categories here aren't that helpful. Probably the most helpful one is verified, because at least you know you're probably going to have a good Steam Deck experience. And then what you can do is you can go to the Steam store, for example, and go to Great on Deck, and there's a list of games that are basically just great on deck, and there's a fantastic selection in there, and you can have a look through there. Also, what you can do is when you see a particular game, if you scroll down, what you should see at some point, hopefully on the right hand side, you'll see something about Steam Deck compatibility. So Arma 3, for example, says unsupported. And it basically says, so all of this game currently doesn't function on Steam Deck. Valve is still working on adding support for this game on Steam Deck. Well, actually, you can get Arma 3 working, no problem at all, as you can with DayZ. The difficult thing, though, is keyboard and mouse. And again, it's that whole sort of square peg, round hole problem of PC games really designed around keyboard and mouse, and yet the Steam Deck, doesn't have a keyboard and mouse built in. You can plug one in wirelessly, or you could use a dock and plug them in that way, but it's not ideal if you're on the move. So again, you can always check that. Generally, if games are only available on another launcher, so for example the Epic Store or the Ubisoft launcher, or say Battle.net for Call of Duty, you can sometimes get them working, but often it can be quite tricky to do so. It's not a simple out-of-the-box solution. So if your game is only available, for example, on the Epic Store, say like Alan Wake 2, what I would recommend you do there is, we're going to check ProtonDB, which I'll show you in a second, but also go on YouTube and do a search for Alan Wake 2 on Steam Deck. And what you're looking for in those videos is, maybe there'll be a tutorial on how to get it working, but you're looking for them to say that they're running it on the Steam Deck in the native OS and not on a Windows install. Because one of the things you can do on the Steam Deck, but it's not a simple thing to do, and it doesn't work yet on the OLED because they haven't got the right drivers, is you can do a dual boot system where half of your system is Windows, or you can run Windows from an SD card, not recommended, and you can run Windows from an SSD, like an external hard drive, which is probably the best way of doing it. But that means you're carrying around this extra thing that you've got to plug in, so it's not ideal. And then we have ProtonDB. So what you can do with ProtonDB, say we search for, say, Arma 3, and it gives them a rating, and at the top you can see Arma 3, Valve is still working on adding support for this game on Steam Deck. However, if you scroll down, you will get people who have tried to use this game on Linux. Now, it might not be Steam Deck, it will be Linux. Sometimes they'll say Steam Deck, and you can have a look at their instructions. My kind of advice would be, as soon as something takes more than 1 or 2 steps to get running, I don't bother. The idea of having a Steam Deck and having a portable PC is that it should be nice and easy to do. It should be pick up and play. And if we've got to start doing lots of different things like installing Windows and doing all sorts of stuff, it's not worth it. But say we go for, say, PUBG is a good example. So PUBG. Now, this is so balked. This game is unsupported on Steam Deck due to use of unsupported anti-cheat. Now, this is a really important one. If you do see a game that you want to be able to play on your Steam Deck, and that's kind of a reason for buying it, and you see stuff about anti-cheat, this can be very serious, because many anti-cheats on online multiplayer games such as PUBG or Fortnite, that anti-cheat is only accepts Windows, and so it's very, very difficult to get it working on Steam Deck. Well, the only way to get it working on Steam Deck is to have a Windows install working, and you install it on Windows. So be very careful with anti-cheat stuff, and you can sort of look at that way. So there we go. That, my friends, is how you search for games that are compatible. Best way is on Steam. Look for the games you're interested in and just go through and just check whether they're verified or playable. Check YouTube, search for the game you want to play, Steam Deck, but make sure that they're not just playing it on an external SSD through the Steam Deck. And then have a look at ProtonDB, and you can get some more specific instructions down below, but you get the main sort of Steam Deck status at the top. Okay, hopefully that's been useful. I'll put links in the description below this video. If it has been, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe, and I will of course see you again soon.